Welcome to New Possibilities. I speak truth to power without fear. So yesterday I joined a hangout, and it was a great hangout. We had a great discussion, a great debate. And this hangout was on Separatists channel. I will post a link to his hangout in the description box so that you could watch it for yourself. It's rather long, so I may try to time mark it when I get a chance, so you could just go to the relevant section. But anyway, we had a discussion, and during that discussion we talked about separatism and black people and white people and this and that. And I wanted to take out time right now to just elaborate on some of the things that we discussed during that hangout. So the first thing I want to address is this issue of white people. You all white people as racist or evil and this and that. And I just want to respond to that. First of all, I'll say this. I think that when people take that position, they are doing nothing but emulating their oppressor. Just like the oppressor judges all black people as one people and has all these negative views and prejudice against black people, I think that a lot of times these people that espouse this hatred towards all white people are simply emulating the very white people that they claim to hate so much. So that's the first thing. The second thing is this. I think it's ahistorical and non-factual to conclude that all white people are racist, all white people are evil, all white people are the devil. Because history provides plenty of examples of white people who have benefited African American communities and have helped African American communities, black people. If we look at during slavery, you had white abolitionists. You had people that helped black people obtain freedom during the Underground Railroad. You had people like a John Brown helping slave insurrections. So that's during the era of slavery. And then you also had white people who were instrumental in the civil rights movement. They demonstrated with civil rights activists. Some of them even gave their lives so that we could have civil rights. Prime example would be those two civil rights workers who were killed in Mississippi fighting for voting rights for African Americans. And then you have others who faced terror at the hands of the Klan because they supported the fight for civil rights in this country. So you have those examples. You have examples of people who gave money to civil rights organizations. You have examples of people who are active in the civil rights movement today, who are a part of civil rights organizations, who serve as lawyers for civil rights organizations, fighting to end discrimination. So I just think that it's ahistorical to condemn all white people as the devil, as evil. And again, it just emulates the same kind of conduct that we complain about when it comes to white people. We complain about them prejudging black people and, being bigoted towards black people, but at the same time, we want to be bigoted towards all white people. I think that that's ridiculous. And I think it's rooted in emotionalism instead of reason and logic. Now, also, it's one thing to oppose racism and oppression. It's quite another thing to have hatred towards an entire race of people simply because of the color of their skin. Those are two separate things, and it's something that Bobby Seale pointed out. Like he said, we don't hate people because they're white. We hate oppression. We hate police brutality. We hate the fact that our kids are going to inferior schools. We hate mass incarceration. We hate the problems that plague our people. And, that's what we need to be focused on. Focused on changing the conditions in our community and focusing on those individuals who are actually responsible for those conditions instead of lumping an entire group of people together under one category, assuming that every single one of them is evil. When, in fact, some of those people are potential allies, and as I've cited examples of allies, as you all heard. And, the other point that I want to make is this. Like, when people talk all this black separatism talk, they want to make it seem like they are the ones that are really down for the people. They are the ones who are really the radical ones and this and that. When there's nothing radical about separation. I mean, it's not anything that challenges white supremacy. In fact, that's what white supremacists want black people to do. If you hear these white supremacists, they always support people talking about leaving this country. They want black people out of here. They want black people to go to some separate territory and this and that. So by, espousing that black nationalism, that black separatism, I'd make a distinction between black nationalism and black separatism. But by espousing that, you're essentially doing what these white supremacists want you to do. They want you out of this country. They want you separated from this country. And essentially you're saying, okay, boss, I'm gone. I'll leave, just like you want me to leave. And it's no coincidence that you had these white supremacists meeting with these black separatists, collaborating with these black separatists, man. Because the fact of the matter is, black separatism doesn't challenge society. It doesn't demand any kind of change in the power structure. It doesn't demand any kind of change in the nature of this society. All it is fantastical escapism, and it doesn't pose any threat to these white supremacists. That's why they don't have any problem with people talking that black separatism talk. They have more of a problem with people who are radicals, who want to create a revolution in this country, or people who are civil rights activists. Those people pose a greater threat than some separatists. And then also, the biggest problem that I have with separatism, as I was saying during that live stream, is it's a fantasy, because none of these folks have any kind of concrete plan to make it happen. It's just empty rhetoric that doesn't affect our current day conditions. It doesn't deal with the everyday problems that our people face. Instead, it's just fantasy talk, because it's not going to materialize. The masses of black people, the millions of black people who live in this country, are not going back to Africa anytime soon. They're not going to some separate state anytime soon. So in the meantime, you have to deal with the realities that we face as a people in this country. You have to deal with the realities. Deal with trying to change policy. And the only way you change policy is through, several means, like through the electoral process, through lobbying, through protests, through litigation, and through activism. You don't change it by sitting on your ass talking about separating. You don't change it that way. You change it by doing things that I do every day. Like, some people flip burgers, for a living. When I go to work, I'm involved in civil rights cases against discrimination. I have more respect for those lawyers. For instance, the lawyers that I interviewed on my I Declare War channel about the Corinne Gaines case. I have more respect for lawyers that are actually doing something to fight discriminatory practices, bringing justice to families, than I do for people that all they have is empty rhetoric. All they have is talk that doesn't change anybody's life, that doesn't create any kind of change. It's just something else, man. It's just something else how, like, people had this idea that this black separatism talk is some radical idea, when you have people like that guy, Jared, whatever his name is, who had that debate with Tariq Nasheed. They want you gone. They want you to leave. And you're like, yes, sir, boss, I'm leaving. I'm going to my separate place. And you ain't going nowhere. So anyway, man, I just had to express that frustration. And also, I want to deal with the issue of allies. These people want to have an isolationist mentality when they live in America, when it only makes sense for you to collaborate and work with others to address common problems against a common enemy. It only makes sense for you to work, together against white supremacists. For instance, these same white supremacists that hate black people hate immigrants. These same white supremacists that hate black people hate the Muslims. The same white supremacists that hate black people hate the Jews. The same white supremacists that hate black people hate gay people. So why not work with these other groups of people against a common enemy? That's only common sense. And a coalition, you know, obviously should be based on mutual respect and, you know, both groups having equal power in the equation. So, you know, that's what I have to say, man, because in order to affect policy changes, you need partners. You need to work with others to get laws passed or to even litigate cases. So, you know, the bottom line is this, man. I just think that a lot of times these people that talk this black separatism talk, you know, I think that they're emulating their oppressor. You know, I think that they're living in a fantasy world. And I don't think that they're dealing with the concrete realities that our people face, and they don't have any kind of plan to improve the condition of our people. So that's it in a nutshell. Tell me what y'all think. Please rate, comment, and subscribe. Peace.